is Ali, and this is my friend Jacob. Today we will have a free talk about 3 topics. They're really interesting. I will introduce him first. He was studying in China for more than 1 year before and traveled a lot of Chinese cities, and so he knows China probably more than me, and and many Chinese histories. So and now he came back to the Chicago, a really big city in the United States, to work for
the University of Chicago.
Yeah, University of Chicago, about crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go for the first topic. Okay, the first topic, Jacob. Would you want to have a Chinese girlfriend if you have a chance?
So I would like to preface my answer to this with
if you had a chance.
If I had a chance. Well, I don't have a chance. I have a girlfriend. I'm very pleased with that fact. And I don't wish she was Chinese. I'm happy with her the way she is.
Just
now that that's out of the way.
Yeah, you don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah, if you didn't have a girlfriend.
If I didn't have a girlfriend,
yeah,
would I want to date a Chinese girl?
Yeah.
Well, I have another preface to answer that, which is that, there's probably 700 million Chinese girls out there. Can't paint them all the same. That being said, my general experience while I was in China for a year or so is that I didn't get along so well with Chinese girls. So not that there isn't one in 700 million that I might... What? What are you doing? Why are you making that face? What?
Keep going.
You got something to say?
It's stereotypical.
Did you not listen to the preface?
Not really.
I had this whole thing about how you can't paint 700 million people with one brush.
So you have yet to meet the Chinese
with
girl
one
of your
brush.
dreams.
I have yet to meet the Chinese girl of my dreams. I generally think there's some larger social factors at play here. My experience was when I was in China, particularly when I was in Nanjing. I was a little older. I had graduated college. I was 23. My experience with not just girls, but Chinese people, like Chinese college students in general, was that they felt much younger. I think a lot of that has to do with the pressure they're under in high school to study for the Gaokao.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to like when I was in high school, I did a lot of things. Obviously I studied for class, but I also played a lot of sports. I played a lot of instruments. I spent a lot of time with my friends. And there was sort of like a social development that I got to have that I don't think a lot of Chinese people get to have during those years because there's so much pressure to study for the Gaokao. And then so it feels like they're a little younger, even though they're the same age. So
yeah,
there was that.
Older.
Mm-hmm. And then so they're and then of course, older Chinese women, they're also under a lot of pressure, but to start families and settle down, and had a lot of other things to worry about, and were not so interested in making friends with 23-year-old Americans who just wanted to play basketball and eat barbecue.
What do you think of Chinese girls? Are they hot?
I just answered the question.
You just answered?
There's 700 million of them. Some of them are very attractive. Some of them are not as attractive. It's a mixed bag, Ali.
Okay.
But who's like the hottest girl you've ever seen?
Oh, yeah. By far, it would be my not Chinese girlfriend, Kelly McCarthy Juan Diego Boyd.
Boyd's sister, Claire. I would agree.
Okay, glad we're on the same page.
Okay. Let's go for the second.
The second question.
Yeah. Oh, what's the second topic? Let me think of that.
It was if I could live in any Chinese city, what Chinese city would it be in?
Yeah. Which city is your
So I've lived in 2 Chinese cities. I've lived in Beijing and Nanjing. I preferred, of the two, I like Nanjing more.
Nanjing is more attractive for
Yeah,
you?
but there were other places I went that I would consider living. I really liked Xiamen. I liked the life of the city. It seemed a little bit more open and free than other Chinese cities I had been in. And the foreigners there seemed more interesting than the foreigners I had met in other Chinese cities. So, like, I felt like the foreigners in Xiamen were sort of similar to me in that they were there because they enjoyed living in China and not necessarily because they were only there for work or something. Like, I feel like a lot of the foreigners in Beijing and other bigger cities are there for work and aren't as interested in learning about Chinese society and culture. But I feel like if you ended up in Xiamen, that's because you knew a little bit of something about China and wanted to be there. And so I enjoyed spending time with those foreigners more than I did foreigners in other Chinese cities.
Oh, cool. Like, the food from which cities is your best?
The food from which city is the best? Here's where I think Beijing is really strong because there's so many people from all over China living in Beijing. You can get good food from any part of China in Beijing.
And they also have a really good dish called air dish. Have you enjoyed it a lot?
So that was the other thing about Xiamen is that the air was pretty clean.
Okay, so if you have a chance to live in China, you will choose Xiamen, right?
Sure. Let's go with Xiamen. There's other places I'd like to travel to I haven't been to yet. I've heard really good things about Chongqing and Chengdu, but I've never been to either of those. I've heard similar things like Chongqing is a kind of city that's very, the life of the city is very open and free.
Okay. And girls are hot there.
I wouldn't know. Maybe the Chinese girl of my dreams is waiting for me in Chongqing and I just haven't been there yet.
Okay. I got what you think. The third one is, in Chicago, always there happens a lot of crimes here.
Gun violence.
Gun violence, yeah. And last joke you made to me is like, it's really easy to turn from fist fight to gun fight.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think of the gun problem in the United States? In China, we don't have guns.
Right.
It's really safe there.
So, I would say this about guns, is that they're not necessarily a problem in and of themselves, more that they make other problems worse. So I think the real question about the United States is why is this society in such a way that people are so violent? So the guns make violence worse.
Yeah.
But the problems exist beforehand already, and the guns just exacerbate them. So for Chicago, for example, Chicago would have a lot of problems if there were no guns. But the presence of so many guns make those problems stick out more.
Worse, yeah. So, but even I stayed in Chicago almost more than 1 month, but I didn't find a gun violence. Yeah.
Right. So the other thing gun violence affects the whole city, but not evenly. So even though you were biking all over the city for a month, you're more likely to see gun violence in some parts of the city than other. And I wasn't sending you to places where there were lots of gun violence. They're often a cause and effect of gun violence is that these places are isolated within the city. So the places in the city that are easy to get to are more likely to be more integrated into the city, and the parts of the city that are harder to get to are more likely to be less well integrated into the city, and thus also have more of the problems that lead to endemic gun violence.
Okay, I'm good. I'm appreciative that I live in China without gun. Right?
That's true. On the other hand, so let's talk about why America hasn't just gotten rid of guns. Yeah. So New Zealand has this terrorist attack, and
then
they just say, no, we're getting rid of assault weapons.
no gun. Yeah.
So the value of the American Constitution is that it stands above and protects the civil rights of its citizens, even above sort of the whims of any particular government, or it should do that. And so the strength of American citizens' protections and their ability to own guns is protected because it's a part of the Constitution, which I think is largely a positive thing. So even though it has this unintended side effect of making America's social problems worse, the Constitution and the strength of the Constitution is a good thing because it means Americans are protected from their government.
Yeah,
and guns are a part of that.
benefit for them.
Right. So there's the protection from their government in a lot of ways: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and of course the right to bear arms is meant as a protection from the government taking their weapons. But it's also, when it was written, it was a literal protection from the government, meaning the power of the government and the power of the people would be balanced because both had weapons.
Ah, gotcha. Guns problem actually is really dangerous. Okay, our 3 topics are over, and now, thanks for Jacob. Come, give me a hand. Let's see you next. Cool.